We're moving on now to the configuration of the Digi router. Here we have a TX40, and the initial configuration that's been done is configuration of the LAN and WAN interfaces with the IP addressing as shown. The first configuration task is to set up the VPN. Now this is the IPsec part of the VPN. Going into IPsec, tunnels, and add a tunnel. I'm going to call this DMVPN. And we need to do the configuration as follows. Change the mode to transport. Set the authentication to match, which is pre-shared key, and add in the pre-shared key. A quick review of the previous videos shows that the pre-shared key was set up to the super secure password of DMVPN_key, all in caps. Let's enter the same here. And we'll verify that's the same. The local endpoint needs to be set to the WAN interface that we're going to be using. ID can be left set to auto. Into the remote endpoint. The hostname we're going to be using is a special case, and we use the word any, and this signifies that the hostname is going to be dynamic or currently unknown. The ID we'll leave as auto. Moving on to the policies. Adding in a policy. The local traffic selector. The type needs to be set to dynamic. The protocol, we're going to specify GRE for this. So use other protocol and type in here 47. Port number is going to be left as any. Let's do the same for the remote traffic selector. The remote network is going to be blank. The protocol will be other, and the protocol number will be 47. Moving on now to the Phase 1 and Phase 2 proposals for IPsec. The IC version is version 2. Going into the proposals and adding a Phase 1 proposal, as used on the Cisco side, was AES 128, SHA-1, and Diffie-Hellman Group 5. Adding a Phase 2 proposal that needs to match will be AES 128, SHA-1 with no PFS. So in here it's just none. Checking the DPD settings, we can amend these to match the Cisco 10 and 60. NAT should be disabled, and SureLink we also need to make sure that that is disabled. That's the IPsec part configuration complete. The next step we need to do is add the GRE part of the configuration. So moving into IP tunnels and adding an IP tunnel, I'm going to call this mGRE. First of all, the mode needs changing to mGRE. The local endpoint will be the WAN interface. We're going to enable keep alive replies and open routing. We didn't use a key on the GRE part, but if you did, you need to apply it here. We now need to add the GRE interface with IP addressing. So I'll close these sections and move into network interfaces, and I'm going to add an interface. So this aligns with the Cisco configuration. I'm going to call this Tunnel 0. The interface type will be Ethernet. The firewall zone here will be set to IPsec. And next we pick a device. This is the mGRE device that was set up in the previous step. Moving into IPv4. This will be a static IP address configuration. We're going to set this with a metric of 2. Change the MTU to 1400. Change the DNS setting to never, and add in an IP address 172.30.0.5. Now the difference here is we're using a /32 instead of the 24-bit mask that we used on the Cisco side. The gateway remains blank. Now's a good time to apply the configuration. Next we need to add a static route. Going into routes, static routes, press on the add button. The destination will be the 172.30.0.0/24 network used by GRE. The interface will be Tunnel 0. We're not using a gateway because this is going to be dynamic. Still within the routing area, we're going to go into routing services. This needs to be enabled, and then the first step is into NHRP. Enable NHRP and change the hold time to 600 seconds. This is what's recommended by Cisco. Expand the network section and add. The interface will be the GRE interface, tunnel 0. The tunnel will be the mGRE tunnel, and the IPsec protection will be DMVPN. The network ID is 1. This just needs to match across all devices. This was already set as 1 on the Cisco side. Then into next hop servers and add a next hop server. The NBMA address is the public IP address of the Cisco hub, 81.68.87.1. The overlay address is the Cisco hub GRE IP address, 172.30.0.1. And now into node maps. We add a node map and add the same information again. 81.68.87.1 for the NBMA, 172.30.0.1 for the overlay. We need to set this as a unique peer and enable the shortcut functionality. Let's apply that configuration now. Moving now into BGP. BGP needs to be enabled. The AS number 65101 is this local AS. The router ID 172.30.0.5. Moving on to the neighbor configuration, we need to add in the Cisco hub as a neighbor, so 172.30.0.1, which is the overlay address that we're going to be using as the neighbor. The AS, because this is iBGP, remains the same, 65101. And the update source is set to the IP tunnel mGRE. Into networks and add a network that's going to be advertised. Now this is the LAN network that's connected to this TX40. 192.168.50.32 with a 29-bit mask. I'll apply that. The final configuration task is to configure the firewall to allow traffic between zones and IP subnets. There will be some default rules there, yours may differ slightly. So we add a packet filter. I'm going to call this allow IPsec to internal and then configure the rules the same as the description. So it's going to be an accept rule, any IP version, any protocol, but we're going to look at the zones and set this as IPsec as the source and internal as the destination. And add another rule. This one is going to be allowing the 192.168.50.0 traffic. So this time we're going to select IPv4. We're not going to worry about the zones, but we're going to work with addresses this time. So the source address will be anything within the 192.168.50.0 network, and we're going to do the same for the destination. And we'll apply that. And that's the configuration of the Digi router complete. In the next video, we'll do some configuration checks and run some testing.